Hello and welcome to this week's Property Matters, the show that brings global trends to an Irish audience to shape your knowledge of the property industry. You can contact us on Twitter at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. Your host for today is myself, Carol Tallon, as Brian Fox is enjoying a well-deserved break. So, moving straight to the headlines, one of the big mortgage stories of the week is that the equity release is back on for older homeowners, and this comes on foot of the tweaked central bank rules to allow equity releases for older homeowners. Also, after a buoyant few weeks of planning approvals within the capital, there have been a number of significant refusals. So, social housing units planned for Knockline United have been scrapped. Plans for over 250 homes on Hollystown Golf Club lands in North Dublin have been rejected as a, quote, substandard form of development. Also, On Board Planola rejects fast-track planning for 3,770 new homes. Nationwide, it's a slightly different story. Developers revealed the plans for Ireland's tallest building at the Port of Cork site, and it will be twice the height of the Elysian Tower. Construction begins on Galway's Bonham Quay, which is the most substantial construction project to happen within that quarter in Galway for more than a decade, valued at about 105 million. Also, co-living remains in the news. In fact, most recently, Bartra have been told that they may need to shave off up to 20 beds from their Dunleary scheme in order to comply with On Board Planola rules. And finally, one of the lead stories at the weekend reported that 9 out of 10 homes failed the rental standards. So that referred to 16,441 homes within the rent pressure zones that were randomly inspected by the local authorities. 90.3% failed to meet the minimum housing requirements. So in fact, that leads us very nicely to introduce our first guest in studio, who is Damien Brennan, CEO and founder of WikiBuild. Damien, you're very welcome.
Carol.
Does that story surprise you? 90.3% of homes within the rent pressure zones failed to meet minimum housing standards.
It actually doesn't. In my previous life as a surveyor in building defects, we spent a lot of our time dealing with defects in multi-use developments, apartment buildings around the city, and unfortunately, we were always the bearer of bad news, and it was just how bad that news would be dependent on the development, the age of the development, and who actually constructed it.
When you talk about the age of the development, are you talking about older developments, or do you mean kind of new falling into the shoddy build?
Yeah, it was predominantly boom time developments. It was properties that would have been developed by developers with in-house certifiers that were signing off on the structural elements and the architectural elements in-house. So it was the developer being the judge and jury.
Okay. Is it fair to say that actually it was your experience around that time that led to the creation of WikiBuild?
It was, absolutely. It was, we never got any enjoyment out of delivering bad news, and when you're sitting in front of 80 people at a time, and they're negative equity, and you're explaining to them how bad things are, and even though you're negative equity and you're struggling to pay your normal fees, we now have to spend the guts of €1 million to put your property right. And
I presume these were schemes that certainly didn't have the sinking funds there.
Correct. Yeah, correct. But also it was just general homeowners that were getting screwed over, and getting poor workmanship done, wrong materials used. I think I said it before in the last cast we had here was, we don't actually believe that the industry is chalked with cowboys. We believe that it's actually lack of education. It's lack of knowledge of what materials to use in a certain type of building. So I suppose that's where we are there, and there's also a lack of accountability within the construction industry. So I suppose that's what led us to establish WikiBuild, was to educate the industry and educate homeowners on what to do and what not to do.
Okay, well, obviously you've been in here before and you've spoken to us about WikiBuild, but for
Correct.
any new listeners here, you might just explain very briefly what WikiBuild is.
So WikiBuild is a free information platform for advice and guidance within the domestic construction industry. So regardless whether you're buying or selling, whether you're extending or renovating a property of any age or of any type, we're basically there for you to give you free, impartial advice with no vested interest in selling you a particular product or a service. We're there to help you and guide you through that sometimes very scary process.
Okay, thank you. And look, as you know, I'm a huge proponent and fan of PropTech. We try to showcase where it's being used well and innovations for the planning, construction, property industries. But I'm always intrigued by the business model element purely because PropTech is so new, and we know that the industry traditionally has been slow to embrace, although I would say that actually the construction industry has really stepped up its game in terms of this at the moment.
Yeah.
But and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot now, but I really just to find out, the last time you were here, we showcased you as a PropTech startup.
Yes.
So can you tell us, where is WikiBuild at right now, and what kind of progress have you made over the past few months?
So we've essentially built the platform, and we're currently compiling all the articles of advice and guidance as a base quantity of articles. So you're talking thousands of articles and thousands.
Do you have contributors into that?
We do have. We have a number of architects, engineers, and manufacturers contributing at the minute. But look, we could always do it more. Like there's a lot of guys blogging on their own websites, but that is to a very limited audience, if any.
Yeah.
We would very much like to sort of recycle those blogs of advice and guidance that they've already compiled, and put it up onto WikiBuild to a much larger audience.
To essentially become a central source of knowledge.
It's an open source of information.
So in terms of the development, if you've built that out, where are you in terms of fundraising? Can you answer that?
Yeah, well,
will you answer that?
We're currently self-funded at the minute. So I suppose.
Did you get Enterprise Ireland supports or
we
state
didn't.
support?
No.
Did you look?
We did. We've had that conversation.
There's a lot of form filling, isn't there?
I suppose we went down that route we spent 6 months going down that road, and I suppose we ended up getting the response that it needs to prove itself. It needs to prove the model needs to prove itself, and the stated that it needed somewhat more innovation. I suppose we went too early. We went with a pitch deck rather than a platform.
Yeah. Well, no, look,
and that's fine.
Probably because you've seen many businesses go through funding based on a pitch deck and not a platform.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's a constant source of frustration across the project, actually across the startup ecosystem. Full stop. So, in terms of driving further innovation, Is that where Build Chat came out of?
Yeah, so Build Chat actually came out of when we got talking to the industry. When we were building WikiBuild, we realised that the domestic construction industry don't communicate. Architects, engineers don't talk to trades, services, builders, and likewise.
There is a huge disconnect there, isn't there?
They don't see. I suppose the domestic construction industry don't particularly use the likes of LinkedIn. They see that as a more commercial market, and being on LinkedIn for many years, I think it is more commercially based. There are a number of guys doing domestic work, but predominantly it's commercial. So we ended up. We thought, well, maybe we're really here to try and innovate and change the domestic construction industry for the industry themselves and for homeowners.
Can I just clarify then? Do you mean maybe smaller contractors or developers?
Correct. Yeah. So it's
one-off
trade services. It's carpenters, plumbers, architects, engineers, everyone within the domestic construction industry.
Okay.
So we really want to innovate that and bring, just change it up.
Maybe explain what Build Chat is.
So Build Chat is it's a mini LinkedIn, or it's a mini.
Or is it more like Facebook for builders?
Yeah. Look, we have yet to see what it'll become. Okay. It could be guys just posting, funny videos on it. I'm not sure. We're posting it. We're launching it with the view that it's a marketplace for the specifiers and for the trades and services to actually communicate through each other and to network with each other.
So it is a social network?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and so is that kind of mobile first? Is it an app?
It's going to be desktop first, and with an app to follow later on.
Okay, yeah. And so I suppose, how is that going to work? Do people subscribe? Do they pay to sign up?
No, it's we felt that it was needed, and I suppose we initially thought that it was going to be an easy build. Mm-hmm. We're now 6 months into it and realised that the build is not quite so easy.
I think that's called the founder's dilemma.
I think so. I think
it should be called the founder's denial.
But look, we were so far down the rabbit hole. We said, look, we need to do it. We felt, and we still feel, that the industry needs it. So it's essentially a free model. Apologies,
Damien, that's the black mark for a guest coming on, and the phone goes off. By the way, folks, that's how you know we're going out live. Yeah. So in terms of Build Chat, why would a builder, actually I'm saying builder, sorry, why would any of the trades, anybody involved in the industry, why would they go on to it?
I suppose to network. To let the industry know what their services are, what their trades are, what their specialities are, and to showcase the work that they carried out, with the view that like specifiers are full time looking for new trades and services and suppliers for all the projects. And when I say specifiers, I mean architects, engineers, surveyors, project managers. Yeah,
and look, we know that there's certainly a skills shortage out there at the moment. So my reading of the situation would be that the many people involved in these trades, if they're good at their job, chances are they're not going out looking for business. Chances are they have a full pipeline of business and they really get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
So who benefits from this?
Well, I think anyone that is using LinkedIn to the best of their ability, it's again they're peacocking in a way. They're showing off what they can do and how they differ from the existing trades and services out there.
Well, obviously with Property District, our job is to help people peacock.
Yeah.
So we find LinkedIn amazing.
Absolutely. But no, and I'm not dissing that.
Yeah. I take your point. I take your point. There has to be a better way, and it has come to our attention that breakdown of communications. It's just not happening, and I think that what happens then, and this is particularly evident from the innovation and the PropTech side of it, what we see is that it's difficult to get crossover. So to get into these organisations, or particularly in trades, because there are a number of different organisations, and I'm not sure how well they communicate with their own members and how well they communicate with each other.
Correct.
So there is a disconnect there, and I hope that that's being improved in terms of coming together for training and different opportunities.
Yes.
But I can see why you've identified this as a problem. I suppose one of the things that I have noticed in terms of look, it's too general to say the trades, but there are definitely some sectors that are slower to embrace new technologies, new changes, different ways of doing things. And by the way, that spans across the planning, construction and property sectors, all elements. But how are you going to let people know that Build Chat exists, and how are you going to encourage them onto it?
Well, I suppose it's a free model for the guys to sign up. We will be doing a marketing campaign throughout the trades. We'll be partnering with all the regulatory bodies to get their members on board, so that I suppose they can network with with employers and potential project managers out there that they may not know, they may not been introduced to before or not.
Okay, on a personal level, I have to ask you, what drives you to innovate, say for Build Chat, while you're still in the midst of innovating for WikiBuild, and what's driving this for you personally?
It's very much the want to change the industry. I've seen I suppose on the domestic front, I've seen too many people, as in homeowners, getting screwed over, paying out a lot of money. It's sometimes the biggest decision, it's the biggest move that they're going to make in their lifetime. And again, I've seen marriages break up, I've seen relationships break down because of this. But I've also seen the likes of trades and services, plumbers, electricians and that there get screwed over by builders. 5,000 in a commercial project is nothing. 5,000 to a plumber or electrician or carpenter is massive. Even to a main contractor in a domestic setup is massive. Likewise, it's massive for a homeowner.
So do you think that better communication, better network building will eliminate that?
I think it sort of flows back over to the WikiBuild model, where we have like a TripAdvisor accountability for the members of WikiBuild. So it's that establishes accountability within the domestic industry.
Yeah.
The WikiBuild.
And actually, I think that TripAdvisor culture and or the Trustpilot, that's so important in terms of payments in this sector.
Huge.
And we know that that's something that's it's something that has always been a problem. Whether in good times and in bad, it's always been a problem. And even in good times, it didn't seem to improve.
No.
Why is that?
I don't know, and I think that there has been a number of ventures that have gone out with the view to change that, to have like a rated system and to have a trust system implemented. I think where they failed, well, they're not failing, they're making a lot of money, but they have a vested interest in actually getting work. They're lead generators, or it's a race to the bottom. It's the cheapest man gets the job, which in my mind, that is so wrong.
But is
for everyone involved, for the homeowner, and even for the trade that ends up getting the gig.
But is that not going to become more of an issue? Because we know, like we reported last week, that construction activity is in decline, and that's not an Irish trend, that's a global trend. But now we know, the statistics bear this out, that the activity is slowing down in Ireland. So, I mean, surely this is a problem that's going to get worse.
As in
we know we're on the downward.
Yeah.
We're certainly at the downward stage of this cycle, and while the effects of that might not impact the real estate sector for another 6, 9, 12 months. Those effects are already being felt in the construction industry, and in fact it's something we've talked about here a lot, and not all of the guests that sit in that chair agree with me when I say it, but we know from working with members of the planning, construction and property industry, we could see it last January that payment days had increased. Issues were starting to come up. So we could see all those warning signs absolutely were appearing in January, February, March. So that's why I think that if we haven't rectified this problem of payments to trades within the industry, if we haven't done it over the last 5, 6, 7 years when they were so hotly in demand, I think that's only going to get worse now. Can technology pull that back?
I think so. I think if there's transparency and if people know that payments have always been a problem, and unfortunately, particularly going back to the domestic sector, where we hope to innovate or bring some sort of technology into the fold in the next year or so, is that homeowners are relying on contractors to manage huge chunks of money, and a lot of the times the contractors aren't educated enough to manage that amount of money. So, and they're not normally known to manage paperwork or time.
Well, every week we showcase new technologies that can help with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Damien, how can people get in touch with you?
You can get in to sign up for BuildChat. It's buildchat.net, and there's we're going to be launching that. We're currently going through the final snagging stages of that, so that's going to be launched now in the next couple of weeks. So you can sign up to that, and we'll get back to you when it's at launch. You can see we're on Twitter, wikibuild.com. And Facebook is WikiBuild as well.
That's always the way to go. Okay, Thank you so much. That was Damien Brennan, CEO and founder of WikiBuild. Thank you for coming in to talk to us today, Damien. And
Thanks,
stay
Sarah.
tuned after the break, and we'll have Aaron O'Grady.
Your community radio for South Dublin. This is Dublin South FM.
Okay, and welcome back to Property Matters here on Dublin South FM with myself, Carol Talon. You can contact us on Twitter at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. As mentioned before the break, in studio with us now we have Aaron O'Grady, founder of Vision Creative Studios. We're delighted to have you here, Aaron.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, actually, you have one of the greatest challenges that any of the guests that have been with us over the last 6 months has had, and that is you are the founder of a studio that is so visually stunning. I don't know how we're going to be able to communicate that on radio. So tell us a little bit about Vision Creative.
So Vision Creative Studios is, I suppose it's 25 years of experience coming together over the past number of years of 6 different companies. They all collaborate together to offer architects, designers, facility manager, construction people offerings in everything from residential to hospitality to commercial. So obviously you've been to the studio, and it's been described by many design teams separately as a Willy Wonka chocolate factory for designers.
It really is. It really is. And I can remember on my visit out, when I heard I was having a tour, I didn't expect it to be what it was, as in behind every door was a new experience. And so absolutely the Willy Wonka factory there is actually quite apt. But you mentioned there that it's a collaboration of 6 companies, but there's 6 very big, well-known brands. So you might just kind of talk us through the brands there.
Yeah, so the main company, Vision Branding, which is where a lot of the contacts and a lot of the other companies evolve from, it's been basically working with architects and interior designers to create visual communications for the likes of Google, Facebook, PayPal, MasterCard, and a lot of the big FDI companies that come in here, as well as other companies like the Guinness Storehouse and other type of retail companies. And what we do basically is we will work with the design teams to do all of the branding design. Sometimes we're actually implementing design, and because of our experience in production, we actually will produce everything and install it. So it just makes the whole process much easier. So this company has had a lot of success, both here and with projects abroad internationally. And from that then, all of the relationships with the architects and designers and contractors, the other companies then started to develop.
And, you know, when we talk about products, it's not really giving listeners a taste of what's happened. So what's going on behind the doors of your studios. So tell us a little bit about some of those products, like, you know, in particular, you know, maybe some of the printing facilities that you have, because there's quite a unique setup.
Yeah, so what we've done is it's not a showroom. You know, initially when you look in, it's like, you know, there's a lot of product everywhere over 3 floors. Like, it's quite big. It's 30,000 square foot. So it's not a showroom, because while it does have product there, you actually have glass atrium all the way around where people are actually individually working, making things. So one of the other inspirations we had for the studio was I lived in Italy for many years, and the Italian way of doing things back in the day, back in the kind of, you know, the old bodegas where you could actually go and see the craftspeople working. So one of my ideas was that you can actually, the design teams and people visiting could see people making things. So, for instance, we have a 3D surface printing machine that can basically recreate any surface on any type of material. We print acoustics, we print fabrics, we print glass, steel, wood, and you can actually see that happening live as you're walking around looking at the Scavallini kitchen. So it's kind of like an experience.
And you have an artist in residence?
Yeah, we
or an
have
artist in residence?
That's right, yeah. So we have across the company 50 people with 11 nationalities, 12 of whom are Italian, and one of the girls, Manuela Greco, she's our in-house artist, in residence. And if you want to have a creative studio, you need to have pure creativity, which art is, because she, will then work across a lot of the different companies and kind of help people when we're developing products, because we actually, as well as bring in products, we actually develop products in the studio. So it's very much a simple philosophy of bringing in very talented people that have a very positive attitude and a nice structure, and actually sharing ideas.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that I come from, a graduate background in law, and then we've been working in property communications for, a decade. And so the creative side, and certainly the visually creative side would not be my wheelhouse at all. And in fact, when I went out to the studio, some of the items that I remarked on, your business development manager, Amo, pointed out that actually these were created in-house by your artist in residence, and I was blown away by that, because I thought the works of art were so striking, and these were really hung in very unassuming places around your studio that I didn't realise how strategic they were, because they were things that actually drew my attention. So I think maybe to give listeners a taste of, again, the kind of the type of product, obviously I was looking at images and prints and paintings, and that was one thing, but actually you use lights to great effect.
Yeah, so for instance, we were initially very commercially focused, so it was for all of the tech companies I mentioned before, and then architects started to ask us, do you have anything for residential? And at the time we didn't, but then we met Scavallini, who is basically Italy's largest designer kitchen company. And they have a philosophy of basically customization and of design. So they work with a lot of designers like Roberto Rossa from Diesel, and they actually design a kitchen that looks like the Diesel brand, right? So they have 38 models of kitchens.
I think you should clarify for people that you are in fact referring to the jeans brand,
the
Diesel.
the clothing
because
brand.
I don't think people would make that leap.
Yeah, I know, it's such a bizarre kind of, but that's Italy. They have that kind of flair for design. They have an attention to detail and quality. And you would wonder, why would Diesel associate with a kitchen and vice versa? And it's because it's become, Diesel maybe launched about 25 years ago, and the people that initially would have maybe bought into Diesel are now, in their 40s buying kitchens.
I was about to say absolutely, because I can tell you I'm the wrong side of 40, and I can remember Diesel becoming a brand that you wanted to wear out at the weekend, and that probably is 25 years ago. Yeah. So I can see that. There would almost be a nostalgia when you walk into that kitchen, and you might not know why.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like when you look at the very little details, you'll see things that like remind you of like that kind of industrial chic style that Diesel has. So, but one of the great things about Scavallini that we liked is that they have 38 models with 750 finishes. So literally you can have whatever you want. And that's what the studio is about, is basically giving designers or even retail customers whatever it is they're looking for.
So if you're working with property developers, do property developers tend to pick from that huge variety, or do they allow their end buyers to do that?
So typically property developers, their challenge is that they have to, maybe they're doing say 100 homes, their challenge is they have to give a product that doesn't offend anybody. So therefore it usually has to be quite...
That's an awful way to cast the design of a new home.
But but that's the reality, because if they go for something that's a bit too edgy and a bit too out there, then there's some clients that won't like that. So they have to kind of be very safe, very conservative. And I suppose where we come in, there are a big range of, in Scavallini where you can go safe and conservative. We're lucky in the sense that also the price points of Scavallini it's a big spectrum. So it's been a great company to work with. And then we've brought in other companies from Italy that do Murano glass art lights at accessible prices. We've brought in companies that do handmade sofas from Milan, but it's not crazy money. It would still be kind of Beau concept type level. So we're trying to bring Italian design and style to Dublin and to Ireland that's at a price that's accessible, and to kind of shake up the market a little bit.
Well, I can genuinely say that in terms of corporate fit out, high end,
Yeah.
and personality driven corporate fit out, I haven't seen furnishings like you had. In fact, two of my own team members went out and did a studio tour there in the last week or two, and several photographs were sent back to me of items to go on the wish list for this year, which actually wasn't helpful at all. But but you know, so there's you're certainly stocking something that's quite unique. And we know from, say, you know, from the fit-out sector, we know that actually this is more of a priority. You know, people need to identify their spaces in terms of design. You know, we've seen some companies do it very well, and you know, obviously. Iconic offices come to mind in that, you know, looking for a very distinctive finish, that design actually has become a part of their brand. Even though it's space, it's office space that they're selling, design has really become a huge driving factor in that. Are you seeing that across a whole range of industries?
Yeah, so what we've noticed recently, and there's very much a kind of push in the design, like that it's about the brand. So it's the brand has to be communicated all the way through, not just obviously in the visual communications and, you know, the culture of the company, but down to the colour of the chair legs, you know. But there's also quite a big trend towards a more kind of homey, cosy type feel in an office. We worked on a very well-known prestigious UK bank recently, that would be very conservative, and a lot of the design team, the Irish design team, came up with a concept that, you know, you could almost be in a kind of, you know, somebody's sitting room. You know, some of the meeting rooms actually look that cozy. And as I suppose it's the third space now, it's to make people feel as comfortable in the office as they would be in their own home. So,
well, you have to know, because obviously with remote working, with technology, for so many reasons, actually, people have other options about where to carry out their work.
Yeah.
So actually, I have spoken to employers, like large international employers, who say that actually, you know, their competition for the staff, their competition is their staff working from home. And that really surprised me. I didn't understand it, because I suppose I hadn't seen it from that perspective. But, you know, this is definitely something that, you know, offices want to encourage flexibility, but they want their staff there, but they want to incentivise them so the staff want to be there. And this is where I think great design, as well as, you know, obviously better offerings in terms of the facilities and house, comes in.
But there's another piece that I think is the intangible, tangible, is how people feel when they walk into a place. So, you know, you can stick principles. So, for instance, from the vision branding side of things, you can stick principles up on the wall of what we believe in, blah, blah, blah. But unless they're actually really authentic, then it's literally just that, words on the wall. So I think there's also a lot of companies, you get a sense of the culture that they have in the company and the friendliness and what they stand for. And I think that's another thing. Obviously, you know, there's a big competition out there to bring in the talent, but the culture of a company is something you feel when you're in it. How they treat people, how people talk to each other, just the general vibe, and that is something that you can feel and pick up. And I think that's a very important piece, that it doesn't matter how nice your desk is or how fancy your office is if the culture's not right. So there's companies now that they're actually focusing as well on that culture piece of what they stand for and what they don't stand for.
Yeah. You know, I'm really happy to hear you say that, as opposed to somebody coming in, you know, selling the consultancy services of managing corporate culture, because I've been into the place that you've created for your staff, and I've seen your staff work, and you're right, you can feel where a culture is working or not. And I think so when we talk about this, I think it's great to hear a business owner acknowledge it, but one that's actually walking the talk, and I think that's very important. So, I mean, Vision was created back in 1996, but when did the studio come about?
So the studio, we took on the studio about 2 years ago, and we had a soft launch in November 2017, initially with, as I said before, all of the commercial offering. And then we had that was the soft launch. We had the main launch in November of last year. And, it was a good success because we invited the design community. Obviously not everybody can always come, but quite a lot of people came, and it kind of put us on the map. And now we've had a very steady flow of most of the main architects and designers. So, at least we're on the radar now, we're on the map, and we're starting to get my idea was as well that you would get the crossover pollination of leads and of contacts and the fact that...
Is that happening?
Yeah, no, that is actually genuinely happening, yeah. So, I mean, look, we have a lot of the big builders coming in at the minute, the developers looking, they're pricing the kitchens, or we're showing them our offering, and then they're looking at their own offices to get all of the office furniture, so we're giving quotes for that, and some of them are coming through. So look, you just do your absolute best. You put forward. We're trying to make as well all of our offering very accessible in the pricing, but not the quality still quite high. And Italian products, they tend to be very designer led. They tend to be good quality. So we're lucky in that way, because a lot of companies in Italy don't always focus on the export as much, or if they do, they bypass Ireland. So with a lot of the contacts I had when I lived there, it's been quite easy to get the distributorship or the agency for their products. So,
and is that exclusive to you in Ireland?
Some of them is. So Scavallini would be, for instance,
and actually you've mentioned Scavallini, which of course be a well-known name in the industry, but we're in the studio here in Dundrum Town Centre, and in fact recent visitors to Dundrum Town Centre hopefully will have noticed that you've opened a pop-up shop recently.
Yeah, we took 4,000 square foot, which was the Starbucks and the Mao, and we took that for about 4 months. So it's proved very very good, because we've got a lot of visitors now coming to our studio, which is in Ballymet beside Fashion City, which is not high street retail.
Yeah, very good. And I would suggest that you maybe have prime placement for the time of year with the Summerfest that's happening out there, because actually I was looking, and certainly while there's a lot happening in that open area, there's a lot happening which might actually maybe block some of the visuals around the area. What we are seeing, and in fact we did it ourselves this afternoon, there's people genuinely sitting around in the space outside Dundrum Town Centre, that they overlooking the fountain that's currently undergoing work, but there's people sitting out enjoying the space in a way that maybe they hadn't done before. So from that brand awareness, you're obviously going to benefit from that. So how many months into the 2 or 4 month program are you?
We've 1 month left. So it's proved very good. We've probably tripled the visitors to our actual studio thanks to the Dundrum. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one, and in fact, Aaron, we might just chat to you again another time about that, because actually, when we're looking across the planning, construction, property industries, and particularly with an eye on the technology that's innovating those, one of the areas that has been very difficult to use technology to revive has been retail. There's definitely a problem there, and in fact, pop-up shops is one of the saving features at the moment. So it's definitely an area that we're going to explore more. So perhaps we might have you in to talk about that and your experiences of the pop-up shop and how you found that. So thank you so much. That was Aaron O'Grady, founder of Vision Creative Studios in Ballymount. You might just give people your website there, so they know where to find you. It's
vision-creativestudios.com.
Super, thank you. So thank you for joining us today, Aaron, and please stay tuned after the break, as we will have Craig Mulcahy, CEO of Construction Boss, joining us.
Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Okay, and welcome back to Property Matters here on Dublin South FM with myself, Carol Talon. As mentioned before the break, we've Craig Mulcahy, CEO of Construction Boss, with us in studio right now. So Craig, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. So talk to us, tell us, what is Construction Boss?
So Construction Boss is a cloud-based CRM built specifically for the construction industry. So for anyone that doesn't know what a CRM is, it's a cloud relationship management system which helps you manage your pipeline and your existing clients. So the unique thing about Construction Boss is it's built specifically for construction suppliers. We're partnered up with a company called CIS, which they supply construction project information to the construction industry. So if you think about a construction project and the amount of different things that are needed to build a construction site or a construction development, you've got pipes, you've got kind of windows, doors, walls, carpeting. So we're targeting the suppliers and we're giving them the opportunity to kind of quote for those construction projects.
Very good. And we're going to go back and actually break down what that is, because you're, I suppose, officially still a startup, yet you've made amazing progress over the last 12 months. So we're definitely going to kind of go back over that. But just to pick up on a few things that you've mentioned there, when you told me this was a CRM system and then you described what it did, my initial thought was, would we describe that as CRM? And so what I'd like you to do is maybe explain how exactly your product works, because you mentioned there CIS, which of course is Construction Information Services. I don't think there will be anybody listening in who, if not a subscriber, who wouldn't be aware of what that is and the wall of very valuable data, but the huge quantity of data that's available. So you might just talk to us about what role Construction Boss plays in that.
I suppose when you look at the amount of data that you get, you can have anywhere from kind of 50,000 to 100,000 construction projects coming through, and there are too many construction projects to kind of manage. So what we're able to do is we're able to filter the data so that it's better fitted for the client. So if they want something over a certain value, if they want something that's a certain stage of a construction project, or if they want certain construction projects to go to certain sales reps on the sales team, we can kind of make that happen. So that's very much the beginning step of what Construction Boss is, and it's kind of how we get our foot in the door. And then we have a full operating CRM after that. So basically you can convert a construction project into an opportunity, start working through your pipeline, your sales stages, eventually getting to the stage where you actually quote and invoice a customer.
Okay. And your Construction Boss, which obviously you founded, it has only been in existence for 12 months, thereabouts?
Yeah, so we founded the company in January 2018.
Heading for 18 months.
Yeah, so, and we kind of we started the company basically. We got CSF funding from Enterprise Ireland, so we raised 50,000, and that was kind of our opportunity to kind of grow the business. So I took a bit of a gamble and decided to really go for it. We were lucky enough to get 2 clients on board at an early stage, and they were happy to kind of pilot the product for us. So
had you the product built out at this stage?
Yeah, we had it built out for a while. We just we weren't sure how we were going to actually.
How did you fund the build out?
Through just sweat.
Okay.
So working late in afternoons. We
Right. So by the time you got the Enterprise Ireland CSF fund, you were able to. That didn't need to go into development. You were actually able to go out and look for trial or pilot projects.
Exactly. So 70% of the product was actually already done before we even got CSF funding.
That's a great position to be in.
When we went in and did the CSF pitch, we were in a very strong position. I had a lot of experience of actually doing pitches like that as well. So it was a matter of just putting a business plan together, getting the pitch right, getting the timing right, and making sure that the message was right for Enterprise Ireland. And then we kind of used that money to pay salaries for kind of 6 months while we kind of piloted the product for those 2 customers.
Excellent. And one of the things that I talk about here a lot when I'm interviewing prop tech startups particularly is, getting those all important early customers and not just early paying customers, but actually initial trials, getting people to, because this is such a busy industry. I don't think people realise that this is such a busy industry. It's very difficult to get people to take a chance on trialling your product, even if they're not paying for it, purely because it will slow down their work processes. So how did the first 2 trials come about?
So, I mean, like if you want to get out there and you want to talk to potential trials, you need to just pick up the phone and you need to ring everyone you can. You need to email everyone you can. Use the contacts that you have. I was lucky enough with one of our clients that we had done work with them before on kind of a separate project, and I kind of pitched the idea to them, and they were like, "That sounds really good. We're looking for something like that. So let's give it a go." And that kind of grew from 10 users using it to kind of 50 now. So it's a job that's worth.
Was that in one organisation?
That was in one organisation.
And that was one of your early trials?
One of our early trials, and and our biggest client at the moment as well.
That's an interesting one. So can I ask, was that a paid trial?
It was a paid trial.
Okay.
Don't do anything ever for free.
Okay, that's good advice for all of our startups. But now, you've actually brought up an interesting dilemma here. That is, when you're going out trialling a product, generally that's done initially. Certainly, if not done for free, then it's certainly done at discounted rates. So there's a belief in certain quarters, and I would probably fall into this camp as well, that you don't want to get your best target customers in that trial, because it's very difficult then to transition to the appropriate fees and the appropriate service offering. So throughout the trial, and when it was successful and grew from 10 users within the organisation to 50 using it, did you have an issue in either extending the range of services or maybe putting your fees on a more reasonable or sustainable base?
Yeah, so no, we signed an agreement where the fees would be a certain price for a certain amount of time, and then they would go up to the full price eventually.
Okay.
So if they're still happy and they're still using the product for after the discounted rate is over, then they're going to be happy with paying the extra price.
Okay.
And they'll see the value in it.
And now, 18 months from concept stage, obviously you're in the marketplace and you're delivering in Ireland and the UK?
Yeah.
Roughly, can you tell us how many clients?
So we have 16 clients at the moment. So basically getting a new client every month. That's without doing kind of any outbound marketing. We kind of, last year, there was only 2 of us in the company, myself and Conan. And we were very much just trying to keep up with the work that we had at the moment, and we were just taking in the leads as they came in and doing projects, which was great, but it came to a stage where we actually saw a lot of potential to grow kind of at a bigger scale and more rapidly. So that's when we actually went out and we tried to find an investor. So I went around, talked to, I'd say, nearly every single VC.
Did you go back to Enterprise Ireland at that stage?
I didn't go back to Enterprise Ireland. Well, we were already at a high potential startup, so they knew that we would be looking for investment at a certain period. We didn't go back to them yet. I went out and I started talking to VCs. I got ripped to shreds by pretty much all of them.
That's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So that it's hard. So these things, it's all practice with talking. So don't get disheartened if you actually go out there and you're trying to look for money, because it's usually the ticket size doesn't fit them, or they don't understand the business, or they actually don't have the money to actually invest you at the time, which is quite evident. But we were lucky enough to get an angel investor on board who is from the construction industry, so that he kind of understood our product and he understood the need, and he saw kind of the global potential for it as well.
Okay, and in addition to the funding that he brought, and by the way, you did say it was a he, didn't you? That doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, one of the things that we've seen and we've spoken about regularly here is that apart from the fact the funding, the private funding in terms of VC and angel investment network in Ireland, really isn't great, and the appetite for risk is really quite low. So it's not a great funding ecosystem here. However, for the prop tech sector, one thing that we've seen is almost all of the investment that has gone into prop tech startups outside of Enterprise Ireland has been from the construction sector. So effectively we have people who understand the industry, who understand the industry market dynamics, and they're the people who are investing. And I always think that's really interesting. It's telling because they understand. So did your angel investor bring an element of mentoring or expertise, or more importantly, did they bring an order with them?
Yeah, no, he brought contacts, which was probably the most important thing. There's nothing better than actually getting an investor on board, and then the first thing he does is bring a client on board for you as well. So that's fantastic. But yeah, definitely a lot of mentoring as well. Like, he'd be strong on the finance side, where I would kind of be weak. So he's able to help out with a lot of that stuff.
That's a really nice opportunity there.
Yeah.
And, you know, thank you, by the way, for sharing and being so forthcoming, because these are exactly the kind of things that we want PropTech startups to hear. It's exactly what we want them to know, because, in fact, this comes after quite a positive week, because we know that there have been 2 other successful PropTech funding announcements over the last week. And in Ireland, you know, it is a small and very, very small emerging sector. So it's great when we see funding coming in, and it's interesting to see that consistently, even as the profile of the PropTech sector grows, it's interesting to see that consistently the funding is coming from members of the industry.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the things we've seen over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months really, is that in Germany and in the UK, there are 2 PropTech venture capitalist funds starting up, and they're harnessing all of this expertise just to be able to fund the innovation for the planning, construction and property sector. So I'm hoping this is a positive, and it's something that we would definitely like to see in Ireland. We can see there's a market for it. So that's putting you in a very strong position just 18 months in.
Yeah.
So what's next? Sorry.
Yeah, I suppose at the moment, because we just closed our seed round, closed it back in March, I'd say, we were just taking on new employees and kind of training them in and showing them the ropes. So, which is obviously quite hard, making sure you find the right people at the beginning stages of a business, because they're very much, you want them to be your pillars. So obviously I'm very lucky that the people that I've employed so far have been fantastic, and they just
have all of your hires worked out so far?
Yeah, everything is being extremely seamless, and everyone's getting on great, and there's a good buzz at the moment, which is great. So
very good.
That's what we're kind of working on at the moment. Primarily, what the business plan is to focus on the UK market. That's where the most value is. Obviously, we're going to still focus on the Irish market as well, but it's very small in comparison to what we could be getting to over in the UK. And then on a global scale, the plan is to go and grow internationally in the kind of American, Australian, Canadian kind of English-speaking markets. And the way that we would do that is we would find other construction data providers, like what we've done in Ireland and the UK, and we would partner up with them. And that would give us an initial route to market to get into that country, and hopefully get a few clients on board. And then after that, we can start pumping money into marketing and growing organically in the country.
Okay, that seems like a very realistic rollout plan. And in fact, one of the things that you might have heard earlier, that, you know, we were just talking about how in the context of the construction sector, that we know construction activity is starting to slow. We know that's a global trend. It's not just an Irish issue. But as that happens, as business development is going to become an awful lot more important. So do you think that this is a good time for you to be going into businesses who are trying to sell into the construction industry? Is this a good time to be targeting those?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, not in the summer, because for me, it's anyone that sells software will know it's really, really hard to sell software during the summer, because decision makers are always away at this time, and it's impossible to get everyone around the table at the same time. So during the summer, no, but yes, there is a huge opportunity for anyone selling to especially construction suppliers, because they are quite far behind on digital transition.
Very good. Look, that's something that we've addressed here. We address here every week, and I do feel that gap is starting to narrow, actually. And in fact, you know, a couple of years ago, we were saying that, you know, the PropTech sector was taking off and starting to embrace, but actually, what we've seen is the construction sector has moved to embrace new and emerging technologies at a much faster pace. So it will be interesting to watch this unfold. Craig, you might just tell tell people how they can contact you.
Yeah, so if you want to reach out, my email is craig@constructionboss.com. So Construction Boss is with one S, so the boss stands for Business Operating System. And I'm happy to take an email from anyone. So
That's
Thanks.
excellent. Thank you. So thank you so much for joining us. That was Craig Mulcahy, CEO of Construction Boss. And that's it from us in studio today. Thank you for joining us on Property Matters, the show where property matters. Get in touch with the show by emailing hello@ipropertyradio.com or on Twitter @ipropertyradio. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us in studio today, and also thanks to Shane Flynn, who is on sound, and producer Katie Talon. We're back at the same time next week. Stay tuned for a Bowl of Soul, which is coming up next, and we're very much looking forward to having Brian Fox back with us next week. From myself, Carol Talon, have a great week.